Hello and very warm welcome to English News Bulletin on Med News. Here with you with top stories from Turkey and Kurdistan. Last Sunday, Turkey held local elections in which the AKP once again was declared the winner. But there are several concerning reports about fraudulent behavior on polling day. Turkish Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan has cast this election as a crucial referendum on his government, although an aggressive campaign effectively pushing votes towards partisanship.
Speaking at a victory rally in Ankara, Erdogan signaled a crackdown on opponents, especially the network of Islamic cleric Fethullah Gülen, his former ally. There will not be a state within the state. We will root them out, he told the crowd. Erdogan said he would enter the lair of his enemies and make them pay the price for plotting his downfall. The harsh tone of his balcony address suggested he felt now had a mandate for strong action against his enemies. The Prime Minister's preference to greet the crowd in front of the AKP building together with those individuals who were implicated in corruption came, according to many, as a veiled message that Sunday's polls helped the Prime Minister, his AKP, close family members and other government members who stand accused of irregularities to be acquitted of all charges leveled against them up to now. However, the opposition parties do not agree that the Prime Minister and his party or government have been acquitted and vow to resist Erdogan's witch hunt and attempts to stigmatize the opposition groups. Main opposition leader Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu slammed Erdogan's victory address, describing it as an antagonizing speech. You, Prime Minister, cannot make a promising speech by standing next to people who are implicated in corruption and theft, Kılıçdaroğlu stated. Kılıçdaroğlu has evaluated his Republican People's Party's CHP results as a start, while warning of a possible witch hunt after Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan's aggressive victory speech. Nationalist Movement Party MHP leader Devlet Bahçeli said, whatever the results of the local elections, they should not be interpreted as an acquittal of the ruling Justice and Development on accusations of immorality. The election results will not count for the judiciary and will not fulfill the duty of the courts, said the MHP leader. Peace and Democracy Party BDP co-chair Selahattin Demirtaş said the BDP increased its votes in places where it competed against the AKP and it now rules more municipalities when compared to the previous local polls. According to the BDP leader, Turkey went through a much-debated election period. The results have shown that there's huge polarization in Turkey. It was as we were headed for a war, not elections, he said, and noted that his victory at the ballot box will not help the AKP get rid of claims of corruption and bribery. This will not cover up the AKP's corruption. A fight against corruption cannot be won by violating principles, Demirtaş stated. The local elections were a rehearsal for the general and presidential elections. We may hold early general elections. They may be held ahead of the presidential elections, he added. Drawing attention to the victory of BDP in Kurdistan, Demirtaş said the vote indicated that the party's solution of democratic autonomy has found big support among the people.
Turkey's local election was held on 30th of March with political crisis created by conflict within the ruling bloc and against the backdrop of corruption allegations. We prepared a dossier with detailed information about the result of the Turkey's election.
The local elections in Turkey on 30th of March were held in the midst of a political crisis created by the conflict within the ruling bloc and against the backdrop of corruption allegations, security leaks and increasing authoritarian measures like the ban on social media. The elections had been turned into a referendum by Erdogan for his ruling through an aggressive election campaign. According to unofficial results, the elections seem to have given the ruling AKP a comfortable majority with a score of 45%, while the main opposition Republican People's Party, known as the CHP, had 28% and the National Movement Party, or MHP, had 15%. The elections also marked with a landslide victory of BDP in Kurdistan, consolidating its votes, increasing the number of municipalities it gains, including 3 new cities. Turkey's Prime Minister has declared victory in local elections that had become a referendum on his rule, calling the results a blow to the immoral, aimless politics of his rivals. However, a comparison with the previous elections shows that the results can be interpreted as the beginning of a long decline after 12 years in government. While AKP increased its share of national votes by 5 percentile points compared to the 2009 local elections, it registered a drop by 5 points compared to the 2011 elections. It has lost major cities in Kurdistan, couldn't gain Izmir, the third biggest city of Turkey, and still have to fight against the fraud allegations in Istanbul and Ankara. Many among Turkey's democratic opposition hoped for a clear defeat for the AKP. However, the election results indicate that the decline will be much slower and painful. A general look at the election results on the basis of cities in Turkey shows a clear victory of AKP in general and BDP in Kurdistan, but a much more polarized Turkey. However, a detailed look on the basis of provinces and a comparison with the previous local elections in 2009 shows that AKP lost more than it won. On the other hand, widespread reporting of fraud marked the historic local elections. Thanks to vigilant observers, attempts at fraud were detected and reported early in the day on Sunday and in the following hours after the counting started.
Peace and Democracy Party BDP won 11 cities, including 3 metropolitan cities, 60 districts and 23 sub-districts as a result of the local elections.
The election results prove that Kurdish people consolidated their votes in North Kurdistan and operate in their own political reality. The landslide victory of BDP in North Kurdistan indicates on the one hand people's support for peace and on the other hand their preference for democratic autonomy. Democratic autonomy is a model of governance proposed by BDP and based on truly participatory democracy through the creation of people's assemblies in neighborhoods and in close contact with and the ability to control the institutions. Peace and Democracy Party won 11 cities, including 3 metropolitan cities, 68 districts and 23 sub-districts. The BDP was able to retain all the municipalities it already held and took the 3 highly important cities of Mardin, Ağrı and Bitlis from the Justice and Development Party, AKP. Ahmet Türk, who is affiliated with the BDP although he ran as an independent, was elected mayor of Mardin, winning 52% of the votes. In Bitlis, Hüseyin Olan won the race for mayor with 44% of the vote. In Ağrı, the BDP Sırrı Sakık won what was a highly contested race. Voters in Diyarbakır, Batman, Siirt, Şırnak, Hakkari, Van and Dersim opted for the BDP once again. In Riha, former Diyarbakır Mayor Osman Baydemir was unable to win, but the party increased its votes in this province significantly. BDP co-president Selahattin Demirtaş said the party had achieved its goals and forced the AKP into retreat in Kurdistan. According to unconfirmed results, the BDP has increased its number of municipalities to 102, including its gaining of 3 more cities. Of the overall vote, the BDP garnered 4.4% and its sister party, the People's Democracy Party, HDP, whose candidates ran in western cities, got 2% of the vote. In 2009, the BDP received 5.2% of the vote, whereas on Sunday elections, the combined BDP and HDP vote has increased to 6.3%. The results indicate that the North Kurdistan is ready for autonomous rule. Remarking that the BDP reached 80% in the Kurdish region before the elections, BDP co-chair said the party had the potential to receive more votes, but failed to do so because of the ongoing imprisonment of its politicians, the discrimination it has faced and the lack of media support for the party. He said it was very important that BDP made AKP suffer a downfall in the areas it competed the AKP and managed to increase the number of its municipalities. Demirtaş said BDP stood by all the promises it made before the elections and would be doing its best to fulfill them and conducting a much more comprehensive work in the coming period. He said local elections have been a kind of rehearsal for the general elections when, he added, they expected to achieve a greater success.
Now, the KGK Executive Council Presidency has issued a written statement congratulating the BDP on its success on Sunday's local elections, despite all fraud, obstruction, state support offered to the AKP. KGK said BDP's success demonstrates that the Kurdish people have made clear their desire for self-government and democratic autonomy.
Evaluating on the election results, KCK underlined the increased number of municipalities won by BDP and described the party's winning 11 cities as a great success. It also drew attention to the great proliferation in votes in the Serhat region and the increase in support in Dersim. Conditions now exist for the development of a genuine popular opposition in Turkey. The BDP and HDP line is that of a real revolutionary democratic opposition. It will not be possible to end the existing crisis in Turkey without an alliance of democratic forces, including the BDP-HDP, said KCK. Kurdistan Workers' Party Executive Council member Duran Kalkan also assessed the results of the 30th of March local elections and said North Kurdistan has become an area to be governed by the BDP and added, Kurds have manifested their attitude, which politics they support and what they want. Also commenting on the results from the point of the AKP, Kalkan said, the AKP strategy succeeded, but it cannot be said that the AKP won the elections. The fact that AKP succeeded at the ballot box doesn't mean that the intervention against it has been defeated, that its opponents have been eliminated, and that its ruling has been strengthened. On the other hand, KCK also issued a statement about the fraud allegations calling Kurdish people to take possession of their votes in places such as Ceylanpınar, Ahlat, Kağızman, Birecik, Viranşehir and Ağrı is a democratic struggle. The KCK statement called on the Kurdish people to maintain their struggle, adding, the municipalities where the AKP is trying to take by force will have absolutely no legitimacy in the eyes of our people.
Let's continue with local elections in Turkey. To get his views, sociologist at Boğaziçi University, Mr. Erdem Yörük is on the line with us. Good evening to you,
Hello.
Mr. Yörük.
Hi, hello.
Hi, can you hear me, Mr. Yörük?
Yes, I can hear you.
Mr. Yörük, on Sunday there was a local election. Despite all the inequitable and unbalanced conditions, the people of Kurdistan achieved a very important success in the local elections. Firstly, I would like to get your views, just for you to give our audience a general picture of the local elections, please.
Sure. So the Prime Minister's party, the Justice and Development Party, had represented the local elections as a form of referendum for the rule of the governing party. So that strategy depended on polarizing the society to the utmost, and so that the governing party would get the maximum votes. Actually, that strategy seemed to work very well on the side of the government, and the only party who could succeed against the government was the Kurdish Decent Democratic Party. And so the governing party managed to get a bit less than half of the votes, and this was quite a shock for most of the secularist and nationalist sectors in this society who was expecting a sharp decline in the votes, but this did not happen. But the second most important result was that the BDP managed to expand its local municipal rule in the region, and now it's much easier to recognize a complete Kurdistan map when you look at the election results. So although the rate of increase in the BDP vote was a bit less than what we were expecting before, but in the end, in terms of the results and the number of municipalities and the extent of Kurdish rule in the area increased significantly.
Yeah, Mr. Yörük, as we know, compared with elections of 2011, the votes of the ruling party decreased, although it has been able to come out as a winner in this last election. Do you think Erdogan will be able to put aside all the allegations which are raised against his administration since 17th of December 2013?
So can you ask the question again?
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
As we know, compared with election of 2011, the votes of the ruling party decreased, although it has been able to come out as a winner in this last elections. Do you think Erdogan will be able to put aside all the allegations which are raised against his administration since 2013?
Yeah, I really think that Erdogan has lost a lot of hegemonic power against their enemies. And I mean, the result seemed to be a success for the government, but many of some research companies, some research pool companies, they showed that the support for the governing party was like around 54-55% before December 17, and which shows that the scandals and the corruption operation, etc., managed to decrease a significant part of the AKP votes. And now the discussion immediately after the elections is whether Erdogan will manage to run successfully for the presidency. And so it seems that he will try that. And now the opposition also, including CHP and the MHP, so they started to think about a common candidate against Erdogan. And so, I believe that the Kurds will be the key actor deciding whether Erdogan will be the next president of Turkey. And I think the Kurdish peace negotiation process and will be a critical juncture in this discussion. So, I'm really thinking that Erdogan will be ready to compromise much more than before when the elections approach.
Mr. Yurikel, last question, one more question. There are reports about vote rigging in some places in Kurdistan, as happened in Sarıkaya, Ceylanpınar. Now they are trying to reverse the result in Ara as well, despite of many recounting and court decision. How do you assess that?
So how do I expect what? So I'm in the streets, excuse me, so it's
yeah, that's fine. No, just there are reports about voter rigging in some places in Kurdistan, as happened in Ceylanpınar.
Yeah.
Now, they're trying to reverse the result in Ara as well. What's your opinion on that? How do you assess that?
I think so. So the governing party did a lot of fraud throughout the country, but especially in Kurdistan, yes. And so especially in those places where AKP votes and BDP votes are closer to each other. And so it depends on the level of resistance. For example, what's going on in Ceylanpınar now will be quite critical, because without that resistance, AKP would definitely impose this fraud. But in the end, I still believe that this kind of misdeeds actually will not change the general level of votes pertaining to each party, because again, for example, AKP votes is now 45%, and with without this fraud, I think it will be not less than 44 or whatever percent. So I think that margin is almost like 1% or so. But it will determine who will run the municipalities, but it will not determine the general level of votes that AKP got. So that still shows that AKP won almost a big success. And the opposition, especially the HDP and the BDP, we really have to think seriously about how to develop a real successful and strong opposition against the AKP. And I believe that will can only happen by developing some work in poor areas, both in Kurdistan and in Turkey, because these are the places of popular support for the AKP, and these are the places where Kurds live and the poor people live in Turkey, and these poor people are the real determinants of political power in Turkey.
Mr. Erdem Yörük, sociologist, joined us from Turkey Live. Thank you very much for your participation and evaluation.
No, you're welcome. Thank you very much.
Good evening to you. Thanks. Turkey now has female mayors in 4 provinces. 3 of them are metropoles and 30 districts. While the youngsters' mayors also turned out to be women, they have been elected with the highest vote rates.
Association for the Sport and Training of Women Candidates, KADER, stated in a press release that women were not sufficiently represented in these elections, but recorded high vote rates where they were candidates. The association also underlined that it was BDP's and HDP's co-presidency model and their including parity rule in their statutes that increased the number of women elected in these elections in comparison to previous elections. KADER said apart from BDP and HDP, the other parties largely ignored women. According to the data of Women's Coalition, only 3.3% of the mayor candidates who would be in ballot papers during the elections were women, while 96.7% of them were men. Including the co-mayor candidates of PDP and HDP, this percentile increases to 6.8. According to the statement of KADER, 37 women were elected as mayors, and it was BDP's and HDP's encouragement of equality that had an effect ensuring the increase in the number of women mayors from 26 at the local elections of 2009. In fact, BDP's victory counts to victory of women and became highly possible on the work of women in the region. As the co-president of BDP says, the real winners of the elections are women. In the overall in Turkey, 3 women were elected as mayors in metropolitan cities: Gülten Kışanak in Ahmet from BDP, Fatma Şahin in Antep from AKP, and Özlem Çerçioğlu in Aydın from CHP. Only one woman was elected as a city mayor. Dilek Hatipoğlu from BDP has been elected as Hakkari mayor. 2 women, Februniye Akyol in Mardin from BDP and Hatice Çoban in Van from BDP, were elected as co-mayors in metropolitan cities. 33 women were elected as mayors of districts. In the local elections in 2009, 26 women were elected as mayors. 2 of them were in cities, 17 in districts, and 7 in sub-districts. Elected women mayors according to parties are as follows: 23 mayors from the BDP plus 54 co-mayors, 7 mayors from the CHP, 6 mayors from the AKP, 1 mayor from the DP.
Speaking in front of the BDP building in Ceylanpınar, which is currently under police blockades, a number of BDP and HDP officials have pledged to take the case of election fraud in Ceylanpınar to the European Court of Human Rights as well as to the Turkish Constitutional Court. On the other hand, the Executive Council Presidency KCK called attention to the fact that the problem in Ceylanpınar has no longer been a problem of election results, but a preparation of an attack against Rojava. BDP's Urfa Metropolitan Core Mayor candidate Osman Baydemir said the 30th March elections were the darkest elections in the history of the Republic.
BDP statement follows 3 days of unrest in the district after the disputed elections on Sunday and widespread allegations of voting irregularities, threats and intimidation on the part of the ruling AKP. The BDP and its supporters have accused the AKP of having stolen the election in Ceylanpınar and a number of other districts after evidence emerged of AKP employing voter intimidation and destroying ballot casts for the BDP. Major unrest has gripped the town since the election. Soldiers, police and civilians linked to armed groups in Syria and hosted by local AKP candidate Menderes Atilla clash with thousands of protesters. The government declared state of emergency throughout the entire district. HDP Urfa MP Ayhan stressed the role of both AKP and the Turkish state in election fraud, saying, "This is a state policy carried out by the AKP. They want to close Ceylanpınar to our party and our people." Ceylanpınar is particularly a sensitive district as it sits directly on the Turkish-Syrian border across Cizre, the largest of 3 cantons of Rojava. The Turkish military and Turkish intelligence are reported to be using the district for a base of operations in support to armed groups in the civil war in Syria. On the other hand, the KCK Executive Council Presidency called attention to the fact that the problem in Ceylanpınar has no longer been a problem of election results, but a preparation of an attack against Rojava. Ceylanpınar is tried to be turned into a base for the gangs of Al-Nusra and the similar ones. An attack to Rojava is getting prepared in Ceylanpınar, said KCK. KCK also repeated its call to continue the resistance until the proper elections results are gained. There are also strong claims of fraud in Urfa metropolitan ballots. BDP's Urfa Metropolitan Mayor candidate Osman Baydemir said the 30th of March elections were the darkest elections in the history of the Republic and questioned the 5 hours electricity outage in the city at the election night. Baydemir underlined that the government tries to turn Urfa into the backyard of the war in Syria.
People from Turkey and Kurdish regions have started to take their way to the village of Amara, the birthplace of the Kurdish leader Abdullah Öcalan, to mark the 65th birthday of Öcalan on April the 4th. The 2 days events to celebrate Öcalan's 65th birthday will start in Halfeti, where thousands are expected to gather tomorrow. 65 artists will take stage during this year's celebration as Öcalan turns 65. Kurdistan Communities Union Executive Council Presidency has released a statement to mark the 65th birthday of Kurdish leader Abdullah Öcalan on 4th of April. KGK underlined that April 4 heralded the rise of the sun of freedom for Kurdish leader and the rise up of the Kurdish people who had been suffering from a capitalist system of denial and destruction and a darkness caused by the oppression. They were subjected to a national and social aspect. These conditions of existence, which was neither death nor life, doomed the Kurdish people to a reality worse than death. This situation was like the burial of a person alive, KGK said, and noted that April 4 heralded the rise up of the Kurdish people buried in a grave, underlying that the absence of organization was terrifying ground of slavery for Kurds. KGK said the Kurdish leader Apo ended these diseases and those was enshrined in the heart and mind of the Kurdish people. Turkey has started spying investigation after a leaked recording of a discussion between top officials on potential military action in Syria was aired on YouTube. The recording of the meeting between Turkey's intelligence chief, foreign minister and deputy heads of the military was by far the most serious breach in weeks of highly sensitive leaks and a scandal for Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan.
The bugged Syria meeting involved intelligence chief Hakan Fidan discussing possible military operations in Syria with Foreign Minister Ahmet Davutoğlu, Deputy Chief of Military Staff Yaşar Güler, and other senior officials. Here's a shock sentences of top secret meeting talks. Turkish Foreign Minister Ahmet Davutoğlu. Prime Minister said that in current conjuncture, this attack on Süleyman Şah tomb must be seen as an opportunity for us. National Security Organization Chief Hakan Fidan. I'll send 4 men from Syria if that's what it takes. I'll make up a cause of war by ordering a missile attack on Turkey. We can also prepare an attack on Süleyman Şah tomb if necessary. Senior official Feridun Sinirlioğlu. Our national security has become a common, cheap domestic policy outfit. Deputy Chief of Military Staff Yaşar Güler. It's a direct cause of war. I mean, what we're going to do is a direct cause of war.
Members of Islamic State of Iraq and Shaham ISIS attacks Zur Khamar village of Kobani. According to the sources, People's Defense Unit YPG responded to ISIS groups and killed many ISIS members during the clashes. ISIS attacks Zur Khamar village of Kobani at 4 a.m. Local sources report that after the attack, YPG People's Defense Units responded to ISIS groups and killed many ISIS members during the clashes. Village of Zomkhari is nearby Frat River and has a strategic importance. The inhabitants of Zamkharari told the Turkish soldiers emptied the border to allow the passing of the gangs yesterday. YPG's resistance and defense warded off the gangs. Local sources told that many members of the gangs were killed. Having been defeated, the gangs tried to enter the village with tanks. On the other side, Siba, a gang group associated to ISIS gangs Girasipi, has attacked the village of Hijaziyah and Shet al-Rahman. Local sources also report that ISIS members lay mines around the village. It has been 25 days that the ISIS started attacks on Kobani and its village. Now to get the latest information from Rojava, Hassan, Mehmet Hassan, journalist, is online with us. Good evening to you, Hassan.
Thank you very much.
Mehmet, could you tell us what's the situation like in Kobani right now? Are the clashes still continuing?
Yes, the mercenary terrorist groups have launched an attack on the village of Zor Magar down today. And units protect the people yet again clashed with them and sustained them heavy losses. Isolated in ongoing clashes between units of protect people Yapaga in the village of Zormaga, west of County Kobani, and the mercenaries of terrorist groups of Daesh, and the Yapaga killed and injured dozens of mercenary terrorists whose bodies scattered at the site of the clashes. Mercenary terrorist groups trying in every way to drag the bodies of their dead and wounded with the support of tank and armored vehicles from the area. But our unit, Yapaga, targeted and prevent them from it. The terrorist groups affiliated to Daesh and since the middle of last night pounding each of the village, Zor Magar, Bayada, with heavy weapons out of the ruined village Kharabato. And the Daesh attacked on the village of yes.
Yeah, we can hear you. You can continue, it's fine.
Yes, terrorist groups affiliated with Daesh targeting Kurdish village, Hurriya, Ahmadiyya, Jorn is located east of the province Kobani and bombarded with heavy weapons and rockets caused material damage. Attacked a group of mercenaries to Daesh at 4 o'clock this morning, the village of Zormagar. It's Kobani west of the province with heavy weapons and engaged them with protection units of the people. Where the clashes are still going on so far, and the mercenary Daesh planting anti-personnel. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Units of protect people yet again knocked out one tank of the mercenary groups affiliated to Daesh and destroyed a vital load weapon Doshka and killed 18 of them today. Mercenary, yes.
What's the situation like now? Are the clashes still continuing or is it silent?
Yes, now today, units of protection people yet again knocked out one tank of the mercenary groups affiliated to Daesh and destroyed vital load weapons Doshka and killed 18 of them. Mercenary fighting has been going at 4 o'clock in the morning in the western village of the province Kobani after an attack by mercenaries, where clashes are still continuing between the units of people Yapaga and groups of mercenaries to Daesh in the village of Zormagar and Kharabato.
Okay, Mehmet, I would like to ask you another question, just last question. What kind of impact did the local elections in Turkey has on Rojava, taking into consideration what happened in Ceylanpınar, Serikani right now?
Yes, the unit of protect people attacked on the terrorist groups in Serikani and units of protection of people Yapaga. It's protection all people in Serikani and in Al Jazeera province, the Kurdish people in Rojava greets the anniversary of the birth of the commander of the Kurdish people, Abdullah Öcalan, which marks the 4 April, the opening of the gardens, planting trees, and organizing public ceremonies. With the approaching anniversary of the birth of the commander of the Kurdish people, Abdullah Öcalan, which on 4 April began celebrations on the occasion in various regions of Rojava.
Mohammed Hassan, thank you very much. Reported from Rojava. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kurdish film director Kazım Öz protested the French government's attitude towards the murder of Sakine Cansız, Fidan Doğan and Leyla Şaylemez in Paris last year, but refusing to accept awards at this year's 36th Cinema de Rol Film Festival Awards ceremony on Sunday. Öz's film Hebu to Nebu, Once Upon a Time, was one of the 11 documentary deemed worthy of an award amongst 40 films showing.
The Cinéma du Réel Documentary Film Festival showed 40 full-length, mid-length and short films at the Pompidou Center, representing 26 countries between 20th and 30th of March 2014. Kazım Öz's new film, Hebu te Nebu, portrays the journey and adventures of a poor, large Kurdish family going from Batman to Ankara in search of seasonal work. On 29th of March, directors of 11 of the films shown were deemed worthy of an award. When Kurdish director Kazım Öz was invited by the French festival organizers to receive his award, he responded by going onto the podium and rejecting the award on account of the French government's stance on the murders of Sakine Cansız, Fidan Doğan and Leyla Şaylemez. Öz said he had the utmost respect for art, but that he could not accept an award from the place where 3 Kurdish women were massacred. The festival organizers said they respected his decision.
Now, this was it from us for tonight. We will see you on Thursday at the same time. Thanks for watching us. Goodbye.